congressmen or other committee members and people they know to attempt to change that law. When I envision that, matters coming before the court where, I may disagree on, from a personal perspective, as to whatever the issue is before the court. Very few constitutional issues are going to come before a Texas trial court. Most of the constitutional issues we're going to see are going to come before federal courts, which are handled by the judges down the street who are appointed for life. But if there is something actually does come up where you eventually have to make a decision as to a certain law, then again, I think you need to take a look at the situation, and you need to apply the laws fairly and as accurately as possible. And that my personal beliefs, whether I like the law, whether I don't like the law, whether I wish it should be changed or not, initially does not affect the decision that I'm going to make if in fact there's a law in place. There are three things that I believe that are characteristics of a good judge. And I've had the fortunate opportunity to be around several judges in my lifetime. That is not a characteristic that would make somebody a good judge. But I've learned some things. And the first thing is fairness. First of all, a judge must be experienced, but coupled with that experience, a judge must be fair. Every citizen, in my opinion, has the right to be heard and the right to a jury trial, which is probably one of the amendments to the Constitution that I believe in the most. Of course, the right to be heard is embodied in the First Amendment, and then the right to a jury trial, I think, is also very important. I also believe as a judge that you can disagree on a subject, but not be disagreeable. I think there's a lot of times nowadays where people, and I understand passion and sensitivity to issues, but I think one of the things that we've lost in this election, or not this election cycle and over the years, is just positive civil discourse. There was a time when we had positive civil discourse, and people could get along and compromise, and compromise has become a bad word, but ultimately, if you apply it to a court situation, that's actually what the jury is doing. Is they're trying to decide, or make a compromise and come together like a mini legislative body as to, does this person deserve this outcome, or does this person deserve this outcome? So the second thing that I believe in the most is that a judge also should have integrity. A judge should be respectful of litigants that come before the court, the victims who may come before the court, the plaintiffs, the defendants, regardless of party affiliation, Republican or Democrat, and really respect the law and respect the position and the authority, and not overuse that authority or overuse that position in a way that is not for the benefit of all of the people of Tarrant County. And then finally, I believe a judge should have an even temperament, which kind of goes along with integrity. One of the things that I've done is, I always tell people, say, why are you doing this? I tell them, I said, I've been a lawyer for 22 years. I'm not a politician, as you may guess. I'm a lawyer, and I go to work every day, and I have gone to work every day for 22 years to represent my clients, and now I want to represent the citizens of Tarrant County. And I think I have the experience as well as those three characteristics in an effort to actually achieve those goals and hopefully be a good representative for the citizens of Tarrant County, whether they be Republican, whether they be Democrat, whether they be African American, Hispanic, white, doesn't matter, religion. So there are really, and I'll end with this, there are two sayings about the law, quotes, famous quotes about the law that I strongly believe in. And one of them was said by the great Dr. Martin Luther King, and that is, injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. And that should be the responsibility of courts, is to administer justice within the framework of Texas law and within the framework of the facts of the case. The second quote that actually means a lot to me is a quote by Cicero that said, the precepts of law are these. They are to live honestly, they are to injure no one, and that they are to give everyone else their due. I believe that I'm going to try to live and to, if I am lucky to be elected, live up to those quotes and live up to the standards that are set for judges, because judges should be held to a higher standard. And I'll end with this, and this was touched on earlier about young people and young people voting. I'm amazed when I go to places that people aren't registered to vote. I mean, again, the ability to vote, whether you're going to vote Republican, whether you're going to vote Democrat, is one of the greatest rights we have under our Constitution. And when you have 35% turnout in a national election, that's not exercising that right properly, in my opinion. Because what you end up doing is you have a fraction of that 35% electing the government that is going to govern 100%. We need to get that up. And one of the things in Texas that's been especially difficult is not necessarily with young people, is just people thinking that my vote doesn't really count. Why should I go and vote? I mean, my assistant at my law firm, Cecilia Hernandez, is 35 years old and has 2 children. And she approached me the other day, this past week, and said, Joe, come here, I want to tell you something. I said, okay. And she said, look at this. And I was looking at it, and I go, that's a voter registration form. She says, I'm gonna register to vote. Now maybe she did it because I'm her boss. I don't know, but 35 years old and people just registering to vote. So because really, what I say to people is my vote. When they say my vote doesn't count, I think it counts a lot. Because it tells people, it tells our elected officials what people are thinking and what they're wanting and what they're doing. And I think if you don't vote, those silent majority in this case goes unheard. And people really need to hear it, because I think you need it. As a lawyer, I look at the bad and the good and the bad of the case. And one of my responsibilities as a lawyer is not to tell my client, say, hey, you're going to win this case and you're going to, it's going to be a piece of cake. The other responsibility is to tell my client, look, okay, you might lose this case. I'm on your side, but you might lose this case, and here's why. I think my client needs to have all the facts before they go into a litigation or before they go into a trial, just as I believe that the electorate needs all the facts before they walk into that voting booth. And you used to pull a lever, and now you do the little wheel thing. But
time's up.
Time up? Okay.
all arguments are over.
All arguments are over. See, I told you, lawyers like to talk. So anyway, but thank you. I have materials in the back if you'd like any, and I would appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, our last speaker graduated from Perkins College School of Theology at SMU. He started working with the Hispanic community Fort Worth in 1971 with the United Methodist Church. He is co-founder of Puerto de los Barrios, a nonprofit organization that administers programs for the Department of Labor. If you have a really, really good memory, you might remember that in the 1970s and 80s, he hosted a program called Los Tiempos on KTVT TV. He worked with Texas Utilities from 1981 to 1994. He served in several nonprofits, a couple of charter review committees, and with the city of Fort Worth. And he is Pablo Calderon. He's going to give us an update on charter reviews and information.
The city charter is like a constitution. The things that are in there, many of them are just not very exciting at all. Back in 2000, there was redistricting after the census. In 2010, there was redistricting again. And I need to get a little bit closer to the mic, okay. At both times, members of the Hispanic community that were involved in redistricting were seeing that the percentage of Hispanics, particularly in District 2, North Side, was not sufficient to be able to elect somebody on a continuing basis. You may remember that Sal Espino barely won his last election. Reason being is that there is great growth to the north of Fort Worth. There are 800,000 people in the city of Fort Worth. Each district, since there are 8 districts, have about 100,000. The greatest numbers of voters are north of Loop 820. If we were to have 10 districts instead of 8, you reduce the population from 100,000 to 80,000, and that's 20,000 people potentially north of Loop 820 who are not Hispanic that we could have in a different district. Bottom line is that unless we move